interesting that natural hygiene is an entire system of health, not just a high-fruit diet as it's currently thought of today. But it's about getting enough rest and sleep, getting some exercise, enjoying your life, getting some sunshine, developing healthy relationships, and a healthy diet, and all those things add up together for the body to maximize its health. Typically, though, today, Glenn mentioned the 80-10-10 diet that's become popularized or developed basically by Dr. Doug Graham, who we've known very well for many, many years. And on that program, people are eating most of their calories from fruit and very little fat and a moderate amount of protein. Now, to go back just a little bit, if we look at the calorie density of different foods, raw vegetables, would we say things like lettuce, tomato, celery, cucumber, peppers, zucchini, things that we put in a salad, would we say that those are relatively high in water or low in water? I'm going to agree they're pretty high. And if you're wondering about the water content of food, just think of having it in your hand and squeezing it. You know, if it's watery and running, it's high in water content. If it's something like a cracker and crumbly, it's going to be low in water content. So vegetables are high in water content. How about the fat content of vegetables? High or low? Pretty low. 5 to 10% of the calories come from fat, so that's relatively low. And then how about the fiber content of vegetables? Very high. So when we've got a lot of water and a lot of fiber and very little fat, that's going to be a food that is very low in calorie density. So raw salad vegetables have about 100 calories per pound. The relevance of that is if you look at the medical physiology textbooks and you look at how much food somebody can fit in the average stomach when they're really full, you can get about 2 pounds of food in the average stomach. So let's just say you're new to raw food or you've been doing it a while, you're really, really excited about raw vegetables, and you decide that you're going to eat a giant bowl of raw vegetables, forget 3, 4 times per day, right? That's a lot of vegetables. You're going to spend 2 or 3 hours eating. But in any case, if you can, at 100 calories per pound, 2 pounds in a full stomach, you're going to have about 200 calories per meal. Even if you did that 4 times per day, you're going to have 800 calories for the day. Now, is that enough for most people? No. Sometimes short term that can be helpful, but you can't sustain yourself over the long term on 800 calories per day. Well, that's one of the places where fresh fruit comes in handy. Fresh fruit, on average, is about 300 calories per pound. So if you have 300 calories per pound in your stomach and you fill your stomach up with 2 pounds, and you eat that 3 times a day, you're going to get 1,800 calories. 4 times a day, 2,400 calories. And does that sound like enough to sustain most people? Absolutely. So you're not going to get all your calories from vegetables. You can do it on fruit. But if you're doing that and you're filling your stomach up completely 3 to 4 times a day, there's not a lot of room left over for very much else. Still, you can do it, but it's still a large volume of food. Then on raw food diets, mostly what people eat is vegetables, fruits, and then nuts and seeds. Now, nuts and seeds, before we soak them, would we say those are relatively high in water or relatively low in water? Pretty low in water. If you had some almonds or some sesame seeds, squeeze them as hard as you can, they're not going to run and drip. Now, how about the fat content of nuts and seeds? High or low? High. How about the fiber content? That's pretty high also, but fiber is the least significant determinant of calorie density. So when we have a food that's low in water and high in fat, it's going to be very calorie dense. In fact, unsoaked nuts and seeds have about 2,800 calories per pound. So if you fill your stomach up just halfway with nuts and seeds, you've got 1,400 calories. You're approaching the amount you need for the day. So they can help us get enough calories, but when we start to eat everything based on nuts and seeds and everything out of the dehydrator, like a lot of people do with raw food, we can get food that's too calorie dense and we actually end up overeating and feeling a little bit too dense. So in any case, let's go back to the high fruit diet. You can get a lot of calories you can get enough calories from fruit, but there's not much room left over. And particularly when you're eating 80% of your calories from carbohydrates, 10% fat, and 10% fruit, you're eating a few vegetables and a lot of fruit. Now, for some people, that works great. Especially initially, people go on that diet. The fruit is so much easier to digest than the hamburgers and hot dogs and pizza and other things that they were eating previously, they feel great. They lose some weight, they have more energy, they recover better from their workouts. Things go really, really well. Some of the challenges, though, if you compare fruit to nuts and seeds, or especially to vegetables, fruit doesn't have nearly the mineral content of nuts and seeds or vegetables. So eventually, sometimes people start to get a little low in calcium, there's not as much iron, magnesium, other types of important minerals. So over the long term, what we've noticed over 20 or so years is that in the community of raw foodists that eats predominantly fruit, there seems to be a disproportionately high amount of teeth and gum problems, for example. Some of that may be due to lack of minerals. We also tend to see sometimes that people get a little spacey, eating a real lot of fruit. Vegetables tends to ground them more. And a lot of raw foodists who eat a lot of fruit do recommend eating a lot of vegetables. But it's not that easy to do if you have to eat 3 or 4 stomachs full of food every day just to get enough calories. So the challenge is that if people start out doing well and then it's not working so well for them as the years go on, unfortunately what a lot of people do is they've got a real stake in it at that point. And they don't want to start eating more fat because they heard fat was bad, and they don't want to do that. Too many nuts and seeds aren't good. So if it doesn't start working for them, what people tend to do, and this is with anything that they're doing new that may not be working, they tend to go back to what they were doing before. They tend to go back to what's familiar with them. And they're not necessarily just modifying their approach and eating a few more nuts and seeds and a few more vegetables to see if that works. They abandon things. And then they say, you know what, I tried raw food, I did it for a few years, and it really didn't work for me. And I think that's a shame. Now on the other side of the coin, the other major